Hi everybody, it's me again. I'm back. I haven't disappeared off the face of the earth. Things just got busy for a little bit and I wasn't able to even really get near the computer. But I'm back. I'm here. We're gonna go straight on into Lycoris Recoil episode number 5, and I hope you all enjoy. We'll get you an update on everything that's been going on afterwards. Here we go. It's been a month. He probably doesn't. Most likely doesn't. Okay. Okay. That seems reasonable. Wow. Yeah, make an itinerary and then don't follow it. So this guy's like, give me a moment, I'll get it. And it's sad because I know the name. Why did I blank on that? Okay, it seemed like Stephen Hawking. Why I blanked on the name is absolutely beyond me. Really? Wait a minute. Huh? Yeah, I want to know this too. That is fair to a point. It definitely should be her decision as to whether or not information like that is shared, but seems kind of irresponsible. Whatever's going on with Chisato, it would definitely explain why she's so lively and chipper all the time. And some of her attitude, too. Wow. Oh, please, you are living. Wow. Interesting. Uh-oh. And he has two Lycoris that he's in direct contact with, and he doesn't know that they are. It's interesting. Wait, what? What was that? Interesting take. Oh, God. Okay, that's just cheating. Interesting. Okay, so that explains Takina's tie to the Allen Institute and the Yoshi guy now. Geez, if they gave her basically a new lease on life, no wonder she'd be grateful to them and tied to them. And I'm sure, and it also explains his interest because I guess you could almost say he considers her an investment, which means he wants to see basically how his investment, if his investment turns out to be worth it or with interest or whatever. So that's an interesting revelation, and that already explains a fair bit. One of you go with him. And of course it's Coke. Why doesn't anybody in this world like Pepsi? So why aren't either of you with him? Really? And so who's this guy? Boy. Things are gonna get messy, aren't they? Uh-huh. Oh boy. Great. Nice. Well, yeah, what is with assuming she's dead? And of course he's got... sound so disappointed. Wow. Wait a minute. Where are you going, dude? Really? Decoy. He knows he's being tracked. Why didn't you put a tracker on him? How do you know this guy? What does this guy look like? A Orochimaru, for crying out loud? Wait a minute. That's a hell of a fall. And there goes her gun. Oh, wait a minute. Is this guy stupid? Ah. Okay, that's it. Now this guy has to die. He's grazed Chisato. Or Takina. Jeez, the strats are all over the place. Wait, did she just... No, she didn't. Wait a minute. This doesn't look good. That looks like hacker. Robota? Interesting. Really? This sounds like somebody who is... Yeah, what realization did you just come to? That almost makes me wonder if he's actually using all of this to try and underscore Chisato and get her back to what he wants her to be. Some of the strings are starting to make sense here. Great. Apparently. But I do wonder what that was about the Allen Corporation, though. Okay, that was a sweet little moment. Okay, so that was Lycoris Recoil episode 5, and it seems like some of the strings are definitely starting to come together and make some sense here. Apparently the Allen Corporation, or whatever it is taking in people and I guess giving them second chances, especially young girls, turning them into Lycoris. I mean, that would be my guess at least. And that would explain why Yoshi guy seems so interested in Chisato, for one thing. It's like, as I was saying at the time, it's like following up on an investment. You want to make sure that it's something that's going to do well for you or come back and bite you in the ass. And something tells me the way things are going to a certain extent, it's, in Chisato's case, it's more the biting you in the ass end sort of thing. But I could be mistaken. For all I know, she could be working in exactly the way he wants. That being said, it does seem like this guy that they were escorting through this episode, for all the lies and everything, it seems like he may actually be a tool being used by the Allen Foundation, Allen Corporation, whatever it actually is, or Allen Institute, again, whatever it is. And basically, it seems like he's going to be used as a tool to try and guide Chisato's actions, maybe even Takina's at this point, considering how closely she is involved with Chisato right at the moment. I want to know some of the teacher's backstory, because he's been involved with apparently paramilitary organizations for more than 20 years, based on everything that we're seeing. He's an instructor for Lycoris, and I mean, he knows the assassin that was involved here. Now, it is interesting that they went to the point of pushing Chisato to try and kill the guy. I love the fact that she's sticking to her guns, so to speak. Meaning the not wanting to take a life aspect of everything. She's definitely keeping things going from her perspective, which definitely also seems to be at odds with what others want of her. At least that's my impression based on what was about to be said before the guy was cut off. It's a very interesting bit of information. And of course, we find out now exactly how tied Chisato is to this guy being having the artificial heart. There's a part of me that wants to know how that's powered, but anyway, yeah, that's an interesting and revealing piece of information. But it can also explain some of her attitude, why she acts the way she does. I mean, if she's been given new lease on life by having this artificial heart, I mean, that's enough to make anybody change, for crying out loud, let alone a young girl. I do like to see them showing a little bit of the relationship between Chisato and Takina as they're, I guess you could say, growing together. They're definitely operating and acting more like a team than they were in, say, episode 1 or 2. So it's really good to see their teamwork developing and starting to really take hold. And yet, of course, we still see Chisato's impulsiveness, because Takina told her to take the guy and run, when in fact she left him with what's-her-face to go and try to help Chisato anyway, which of course led to all of the events that we saw afterwards. But even so, it's very interesting seeing how things are developing. Some of Chisato's backstory or story makes a little bit more sense now. I would love to know more. I'm sure we're going to get more as things go on. And of course, we've got this whole thing going on with the, I guess you could say, the Lycoris Hunter. I guess that's the best way to describe him at this point, because it seems like what he's going after is the Lycoris themselves, trying to either expose them or whatever, with the subway in the last episode, and then with deliberately running down and killing the Lycoris in this episode. It really makes me wonder what his end game is. I mean, granted, if it's just to expose the Lycoris and sow chaos or bring down the organizations that run them, I mean, I suppose that's motivation enough or whatever right there. But I mean, especially if it's an organization that causes him and his illegal dealings so much difficulty. But It does make me wonder what his endgame actually is also. Because, again, why would you go after them, something that is supposed to be a helpful entity, as morally ambiguous as they may be? Now, I may even go so far as to say morally wrong, depending on exactly how far it goes. But it doesn't, unless he has some sort of a bad end game, like he wants to sow havoc, anarchy, whatever. I mean, that's the only reason I could see for him trying to take out the Lycoris and expose them, etc., get them undone. Another possibility, maybe he had a family member, and of course I'm spitballing here, but maybe he had a family member, a daughter, a niece, or whatever, who was taken and turned into a Lycoris. But if that were the case, that wouldn't make... Maybe if they were killed, because then he wouldn't really have too much reason to care. But if that were the case, he wouldn't exactly be after them to kill them, would he? So I don't know. That doesn't exactly seem like the best spitballing idea in the world. You can all just disregard that. It is what it is. I'm afraid to see where he's going after the last episode, though, what with the way he was looking towards the tower, though. I mean, what we saw in this episode may just be a prelude to something much, much worse. And of course we have the local detective who knows Chisato, who knows Takina, and all this cover-up. I swear, I thought he knew that they were Lycoris, but all of the implications at the moment are quite simply that he doesn't know, which surprises me quite a bit. I mean, I suppose if the Lycoris are supposed to be kind of underground to a certain extent, maybe local authorities aren't as aware of them as I thought they might be, especially based off of the interactions from the first episode. I mean, it does make a certain degree of sense, but it definitely goes contrary to the way things look like they were playing at first. So that one just confused me a little bit. Again, like I said, I thought he knew, but apparently he doesn't. And of course, there's all the undercover stuff, the exposing all the bullet holes, investigating the subway site. He feels that he has to do this, I guess you could say, off the books, because apparently it's being covered up. And, well, yeah, it is. I mean, we saw that so obviously in the last episode with the news reports saying that it was an accident, but that there were no casualties. I mean, hell, all the Lycoris that were on that train that probably died in the blasts, of course there would be bodies. So, of course, it's all been stripped. That might not be the right word. But I think you all see where I'm going. Of course it would be cleaned up. It would be any evidence of bullets, casings, explosions would be removed as best as could be managed with a limited time frame. But even so, you'd have to work damn quick to get in there before local authorities. Yeah, DA, Lycoris, whatever organizations are actually on top of all of this are really on top of their game if they're keeping ahead of that. Going to be interesting to see how this develops from here. I'm loving the fact that we're getting some of Chisato's backstory, finally, even if it's just little hints here and there, just little things. It's still nice to start getting some of that backstory. It helps you understand her and her perspective a little bit more, which is, from a character development standpoint, and even more a character investment standpoint from a watcher, actually being invested in the character, actually in watching the character, following the character. It's a huge step from the standpoint of character investment, from the standpoint of a viewer who wants to be invested in the characters of the show that they're watching. It makes a huge deal understanding some of the characters' backstory and how their character developed, and what's more, how their character continues to grow and change throughout the series. Again, character development, character growth, not just, okay, here's your character, and they never change and you never learn anything. I mean, even from the aspect of a writer, because I do a lot of my own writing. I'm sure I've mentioned before that I have a book that I'm writing. I'm not going to go into details, but I have one character that, to a certain degree, I've kind of kept a mystery, and I like to give little bitty clues as to who she might be or who she could be tied to. Well, maybe not quite that, but just little hints about her past, little things that she comes out with and says here and there, or actions that she makes. I'm starting to work those into the way the story progresses, especially as she starts becoming a more prevalent character. Eventually, of course, I do plan to have like a full reveal of who this character actually is in the grand scheme of the world and why she is the way that she is. But yeah, it's just I like the idea of having that little bit of mystery that you get just a little bit here and there, just enough to keep the people interested in her without her being a one-tone wonder. But anyway, and I've also started working her into the dialogue a little bit more, where I'm involving a couple of my other characters that she interacts with on a more regular basis, so that basically she just gets a little bit more fleshed out. She's a little more active, a little bit more present, and you see some of her personality really come through. So, but anyway, that's my writing, that's my book. But I mean, I can still draw parallels to Lycoris. I can still draw parallels to just about any other series. Because, again, having those little hints get dropped every now and then for the mysterious character. Those are some of the things that can keep readers and even viewers going for a long time. So I do think it's nice getting that. And it keeps the viewers invested also. I'm certainly hooked. I have been from episode 1. Of course, I haven't binged the series because I'm trying to keep it as first watches for my reaction series here. But you get my point. It keeps you hooked. It keeps you wanting more. It keeps you wanting to know more so you have to keep watching to learn more and get everything. And of course, they're probably not really going to drop everything until like episode 11 anyway, so that they can tie things up neatly for episode 12. And that's assuming it doesn't go for more than one season. I don't know. I haven't actually looked into it that far. Yeah, it's just one season so far. So unless they get a second season, I mean, of course it would be nice to have everything explained by episode 11 so that things can be tied off neatly and you understand the characters properly by the end of episode 12. So, but anyway, on a side note, that's everything about the episode. That's everything that I really wanted to touch on with the episode. It's nice, again, to see the development, seeing Takino coming out of her shell just a little bit more again. Continuing to develop in that respect is outstanding. I also like to see that they're bringing Kurumi in a little bit more, maybe not fleshing her out a little bit more, but definitely giving her more to do. And of course the other characters also. But there's always just the investment in the main two, and that's why we're here. And just their overall story. Anyway, as far as why it took me so long to get to this episode, my mom brought in a mess of kittens in the last couple of weeks. So they've been keeping us very busy. Things that I've had to do in the last few weeks, kittens have been keeping us very busy. That's the simplest way to put it. Just trying to keep the house clean, keep up with cat boxes, keep up with everything else, kitten visitors. But this last week or two especially, my mom and I have been working on a project for kittens in the house. She got last year for one of the cats that was a bit of a problem. To not go too much into detail. But we needed somewhere that we could isolate her. You know, she wasn't a medical problem, mind you, more of a behavioral problem. But we still needed somewhere to isolate her. So she ordered off of Amazon an enclosure, which in this case was made out of two pre-made units that we just knocked out one of the sidewall in each one, and so that we could join them together to create one okay size enclosure. And that basically became her house. The cat's name was Pandora, and we called it Pandora's Box. Go figure. Well, she ended up passing away like February, March, somewhere in there, just complications from health and other things. And these were things that were quick onset too. So again, it wasn't like a chronic thing or anything that actually spread through the rescue, but it was still something that was a relatively traumatic takedown. We've had this enclosure and we've been using it on and off for a couple of the other cats or a couple of the other kittens. We've been using it as like a sequester area for a cat that gets spayed or neutered, so that they have somewhere that they can be isolated from everybody else for a couple of days. We actually had a mother cat who was in the rescue for a little bit, and she basically lived in the enclosure for a little while because we had nowhere else to put her. She didn't really get along with everybody else. She was pseudo-feral, but she was also friendly. She would let us love on her for a little bit, and then she'd just randomly turn around and lay into you. With her gone, my mom wanted to upgrade to something that was a little bit bigger, a little bit more suited for the cats, that also opened up to the room a little bit more and also gave us room where, say, if we want to actually go into the enclosure to spend time with the cat, we can. Well, my mom was thinking about expanding just by getting another enclosure unit, and I'll admit I made the suggestion, why don't we just build something that's actually permanent into the corner ourselves, and we can probably do it cheaper. So thus began. Now, this was also in response to the fact that we had a couple of cats that were with one of my mom's fosters that were getting ready to come in because her foster was going on vacation, and we needed somewhere to put them for the time being, because they're a little bit more skittish and something of a quarantine, isolation, whatever, however you decide to term it. Basically, we needed somewhere for them to go. The only option that we really had for them to go into was the enclosure at the time, which was not big enough for 5 cats, full-size cats, plus cat box. I mean, one of the previous building projects I'd had to do for the rescue was to actually build a cat box pen that could be attached to the front of the enclosure to just allow for more floor space in the enclosure, because there was like nowhere. These enclosures were, 30 inches by 30 inches, not even 3 full feet. And so for a decent enough size cat box, that takes almost up the entire floor space for one of the enclosure units. And the way I saw it, just expanding it to another enclosure by adding on another unit, especially with the problems that my mom had with it, it had a lot of unused vertical space, because these were like 6 feet tall, and they only had like a couple of randomly assorted shelves that really did not utilize the space very well. And with, of course, 2 units attached together, that just meant the amount of space wasted was that much greater. So I made the suggestion, you know what, for the same amount of money, let's go out, let's get an enclosure built, something that we build ourselves, permanent into the corner. Now, this is in our, what we call our family room. This is the lower level of our house. And this is the room that has needed like the most attention since we've moved in, 20 years ago. My dad retired from the Air Force in 2003, and we got the house here, and we've lived here since. So, again, 20 years ago. That's the room that's caused us the most problems. My dad, in the first couple of years, tore out the wall that was down there. And he hauled out rotten woodwork, rotten drywall, everything. And then he never got back to putting any of it back up. Because of finances, because of time constraints. And I really should be careful about what I say, just in case he happens to be watching this. But to put it mildly, Mom and I have been pushing him to try and get this done for like 15 years. And finally, of course, he's overseas right now. And he's going to be overseas for another couple of years for his current job. So Mom and I just finally broke down and said, you know what? We're going to do whatever is necessary to finish that corner so that we can get this enclosure in ourselves. And if he has a problem with it, when he comes home, he can redo it his way. So we have completely refinished the corner of this room and built in a permanent cat enclosure. Now, it is not completed in the pictures that you're about to see, but I mean, it is as close to final as it can be at the moment. We were doing this this went up in the 4 days prior to the cats being brought in. And I mean, I was doing all the construction work myself. My mom had very little idea of my vision for the enclosure. And I mean, admittedly, I didn't share too much of my idea either with her, but there was only so much we could do at one time. We only have one miter saw. We only have certain numbers of tools. So I was doing a lot of this on my own. And you can see the results in the pictures here. Now, right here is what the wall looked like after my dad had stripped it. All I really did was cut down the last little bit of the baseboard, which was still rotten. And then I started popping in some of the stud work, which was fun in and of itself, because the wall here, I had to actually cut the studs down to the proper length. This wasn't a standard 8-foot ceiling. And then, of course, over that, we started putting plywood and everything else to just kind of get it finished. We didn't want to do drywall because we are expecting to replace it. And the plywood especially gives us a little bit more stability for attaching things later. And of course, the final project here is after about 24 hours after the previous photo. And that was an absolute bear to finish in time. So, yeah, that was the fun that I got to have last week. And of course, things have just been busy since then, so today was the first time I actually got to spend a decent amount of time on the computer to actually watch another episode of Lycoris. I'm hoping to deliberately devote some more time to this over the next few weeks to try and get this done. Even if that means actually stopping some of the gaming that I've also been doing to a certain extent. I keep falling into the black holes of mobile gaming. I can't deny that either. But as far as just this past week, that project was what took up the most of my time. That was fun. And I do actually mean that seriously. It was fun to build. It was also very exhausting. So I have no desire to repeat the process in the future. Or the near future, for that matter. But, I mean, I'm not the kind of person who shies away from manual labor either. I actually enjoy it to a certain extent. I actually enjoy feeling like I've done a good job for the day. I really hate sitting around most of the day, if I'm being perfectly honest. I do what I have the time for and what is required of me, usually. And lately, there's just not that much that's required of me. I've actually signed up with a local fitness club because I need to replace the level of physical activity that I was getting when I was working. So, after I meet with a personal trainer so that I can get an idea of the kind of workouts I need to be doing to target the muscle groups, whatever that I'm wanting to at least keep toned, I'm planning on trying to at least hit this fitness center like maybe 2 times a week. I might even try to get up to 3 times a week as long as time allows. Of course, I am still applying for jobs here and there. I just applied to a couple of retail positions because I'm not having a whole lot of luck with local entry-level geology postings. My camera just bugged out on me. There we go, that's better. I really hate it when my camera bugs out and just loses focus. I don't know if it's just me moving too much or what. But anyway, I am hoping to. I just want to tone up some of the muscle mass that I already have. I don't want to bulk up, mind you. That's not one of my desires. But I do want to at least to maintain muscle tone. And there are a couple of areas that I would like to kind of, again, get muscle tone back into. Because, again, I'm not as active as I was when I was working. And if it looks like I'm going to be continuing to be out of work for a little while, I need something to replace that activity. Occasional weekend construction projects don't exactly count. So I'm hoping that this will take care of my problem, help me keep at least a little bit more fit, and all of that. But anyway, I suppose I shall go ahead and let you all go now that you've kind of gotten my brief update. I do hope to get towards Lycoris Recoil episode 6 soon, and I should have this video edited and up no later than July 10th, which is tomorrow. I plan to edit it, to spend a fair chunk of time editing it tonight if I must, but I definitely want to get it done. I want to get it out so that I can be in place to do that for the next episode. Anyway, on that note, I hope you all enjoyed the reaction. I apologize if I was too reserved. Again, I'm still trying to work with not internalizing my reactions too much. At least I'm trying to vocalize my reactions a little bit more so that it's not just internal. I know you all can't read my mind. So just trying to go with that. But I hope you all enjoyed the reaction. I hope you all continue watching. I do, again, hope to get to Lycoris Recoil episode 6 within the next couple of days, a week at most. And on that note, I will let you all go, and I will catch you all again later. Stay safe out there. Happy hunting for those of you who are gaming.